So Alaska Airlines has this really awesome benefit that allows you to see 2 cities for the price of 1, and it's called their stopover benefit, which is different from a layover, so don't get those 2 confused. In this video, I'm going to show you how to book some stopover itineraries and how to maximize them. My name is Max and I help people maximize their airline miles, hotel points, and credit card points. Remember to hit the like and subscribe button down below, and let's get started. First up, what in the world is a stopover? Well, a stopover is a stop in a city on the way to your destination that's more than 24 hours, whereas a layover is less than 24 hours. So for example, I can go from LA to Frankfurt, stop in Frankfurt for like 3 or 4 days maybe, hang out in Frankfurt, enjoy like a bratwurst and pretzels, and then continue my trip on the way to Zurich. That is essentially what a stopover itinerary is like. And what Alaska does is that they allow you to have that free stopover in Frankfurt. And so that leads me into the next thing, is that how much does a stopover cost when it comes to Alaska Miles? And Alaska Miles charges you 0 additional money or miles in order to book a stopover itinerary. But the key thing is that you do have to book with Alaska Miles in order to take advantage of this free stopover benefit. So that all sounds great and all, but how do you book these stopover itineraries? Well, there's a couple rules that you must follow. First, it must be an international flight. And so it has to go from one region to another region. It can't be within that same region. And so for example, I can't do something where it's like LA to Chicago, have a couple days stopover in Chicago and continue on to New York. That's all within the same region. That won't work. It has to be an international itinerary. Like an intra-Europe thing, that won't work either. You can't go from like London to Paris and then have a stopover in Paris and continue on to Zurich. That won't work. You have to go from region to region. And so it has to be an international itinerary. The next rule is that you're allowed 1 stopover for each one-way leg of your flight. And so for a one-way outbound ticket, you can go from LA to Frankfurt and on to Zurich. And then on the return flight, you can also build a stopover as well. You can go from Zurich to Paris, stopover in Paris, and continue on to LA. And so your 2 stopover cities on that would be, on the outbound, it would be Frankfurt. On the inbound flight, it would be Paris. And so that kind of satisfies that rule of having 1 stopover for each way of your trip. The next rule is kind of not a rule, but it's just kind of a guideline where you're most likely going to have your stopovers in the hub city of the airline that's operating your flight. So for example, if the flight is operated by Qatar Airways, then you're going to have a stopover in Doha. If your flight is operated by Finnair, you're going to have a stopover in Helsinki. If your operating flight is Japan Airlines, you're going to have a stopover in Tokyo, and so on. So you get the idea. Whatever your operating airline will be, that's where you can build in a stopover. The next rule is that your stopover can't be more than 14 days. And so if I'm going from LA to Frankfurt for a stopover in Frankfurt, my stopover in Frankfurt can't be more than 14 days. It has to be less than 14 days, and then continuing on to Zurich. So pretty simple rule there, just less than 14 days for your stopover. The next rule is that you're only allowed 1 partner airline for each direction of your trip. And so that means that when it comes to building your itinerary, you only can include 1 partner airline. For example, I can fly from San Francisco to Tokyo on Japan Airlines, and then from Tokyo have my stopover there and then continue on to Sapporo. And so that is a stopover itinerary with just only 1 partner airline. Another example would be if I'm flying from New York to Frankfurt on Condor, and then from Frankfurt, I continue on down to Johannesburg, South Africa on Condor as well. That's still 1 partner airline. What I can't do would be flying from San Francisco to Tokyo on Japan Airlines, and then go from Tokyo down to Hong Kong on Cathay Pacific. That's 2 partner airlines. That won't work. And the last thing is that not all flights are bookable with stopovers. It's just kind of a game of like trial and error, and you have to just test out a bunch of itineraries to see what works for a stopover. Sometimes there's no award availability to build a stopover, and sometimes there's blackout dates. And so keep that in mind, that not all flights are bookable in a stopover itinerary. Those are the rules. I'll put them back on the screen right now. And there are a decent amount of rules, but if you're able to follow some of these rules, there's still a bunch of opportunities and different routings and different options to maximize Alaska Miles free stopover. So let's jump over to my computer. I'm going to show you how to book some of these stopover bookings. All right, so I'm here on the Alaska Airlines website. I'm going to show you how to do a stopover itinerary. I'm not going to mess with any of this. I'm going to click on all search options right here, and it'll take me to this screen. This is where I'm going to click on multi-city and click on use miles. So in this case, let's do Seattle to Doha, and then from Doha on to Bangkok as an example. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do like, let's depart on say the 13th here. That way we get into Doha on the 14th maybe. And then from there, we're gonna depart out of Doha to Bangkok on the 18th. So we're gonna hang out in Doha a couple days and then continue on to Bangkok, Thailand. And let's go ahead and click on find flights. So this shows us the award availability, and the first option here is Qatar Airways, and you can see it's Qatar Airways and Qatar Airways. That satisfies the one partner airline rule that we mentioned previously in this video, and so that's why I'm able to book this. And it's 42,500 Alaska miles and $60 in taxes and fees. I can click on details here and it'll tell me more about this flight. And it says that I'm flying Qatar Airways. I get in October 14th. There's a 3-day layover or stopover in Doha. So I gotta go check out Doha for 3 days and then continue on from Doha to Bangkok. And so that's what a stopover itinerary looks like here on the Alaska Airlines website. And say I don't want to go to Bangkok, maybe I want to go to Mumbai, right? I can go ahead and click on find flights. And same thing, Qatar Airways here, 42,500 Alaska miles and $58 in taxes and fees. And the process is very similar when it comes to business class or first class, if you want to book that as well. And another good example down here is that you can see that this flight has me going from Seattle to LA, LA to Doha, Doha to Mumbai. And this is a good example of like that rule of like just one partner airlines, and you can fly just one partner airline here, but there's also Alaska Airline flight as well. So this still satisfies that rule of just one partner airline. And so Seattle to LA, 7.5 hour layover, and then LA to Doha, a 4-day layover, and then continuing on from Doha over to Mumbai. And so this is another example of a stopover itinerary. I likely would not book this because there's a 7-hour layover in LAX, but that's just another example. So that's how you book stopover itineraries over on the Alaska website. But what I recommend is that when it comes to these stopover itineraries, break down your itinerary to individual legs and search the long haul leg first. So for example, I want to go from LAX to Bangkok with a stopover in Doha. I'm going to search first as LAX to Doha first to make sure there's award availability there first. And then I'll search from Doha to Bangkok and search for that award availability. Once I have the dates and the flights that I want, then I'll marry them together on a multi-city search to take advantage of that free stopover benefit. That'll make things way easier to search and quicker to search as well. There's one more thing to take into consideration is that sometimes the Alaska program or the Alaska website does some weird, unexplainable things. For example, a subscriber commented on my previous video of like why LATAM was not pricing correctly when you add a stopover. I ran the search myself and confirmed that the pricing is incorrect when you add a stopover on a LATAM flight. If I was in this situation, I would call Alaska Airlines to see if they can price it more correctly over the phone and make that booking over the phone versus online. Something to keep in mind when it comes to searching for these stopover itineraries. But with that said, there's still a lot of options and a lot of opportunities to maximize this free stopover benefit. I did another video over here about Alaska Miles and how to get from American Express points over Alaska Miles and how to maximize and search for award availability over there. So go check out that video if you're interested in more things about Alaska Miles. Remember to hit the like and subscribe button down below. Thanks for watching this far, and I'll see you guys in the next one.